Welcome to Behind the Scenes Great Falls, a brand new video series where we show you an inside look of your favorite businesses in Great Falls, Montana. My name is Jayson, and this first episode is talking about a business that's close to my heart, which is CAB, Coffee and Business. Welcome to our first episode of Behind the Scenes of Great Falls. I'm out here at El Banco Modern Bistro, the birthplace of CAB Nation. Each week, CAB members come here and they learn about professional development, they learn about community involvement, and they learn about networking and how businesses can thrive and partner together and not be an island out there. And that's what CAB is all about, is building relationships. But I kept looking for her to give me the finger. And then what ended up happening is I'd actually look at my phone then to see if she's texting me. It's 9:45, Jayson, time to get going, but she didn't text me. But I do appreciate you all being here today. So CAB was a spur of the moment idea, so to speak. I never thought of starting something like this. I never dreamed or dreamt that it would turn into what it has over the last 2.5 years, but it kind of was born out of a friend of mine, my neighbor, Steve Blanchard. I always want to give a shout out to him because he worked for me in the insurance industry. He's one of the agents that I actually brought on early in my independent agency. And we were talking one time outside of Wheat, Montana, and he said, yeah, years ago, I remember being a youth pastor, and we had the pastors all get together and just share and just get to know one another and build community within the pastor's realm versus this church and that church is the pastors coming together of a community. And I said, well, I wonder what that would look like if we did it on a business side. He said, well, I don't know. So we came down here to El Banco, and there was actually another coffee house here, and Jenny Winters owned it, and so I want to give a shout out to her, but it's called Crossroads. And I knew that they were fairly new, and I just thought, well, maybe I can set up a thing to where we can have coffee here and maybe bring in a little bit of business to them. So I came down here and I met her this on a Tuesday, and I met her on a Tuesday afternoon, and I came in and introduced myself, who I was and what I was looking for. I said, do you care if I bring some friends in here for coffee? And they said, man, we'd love it. So I went home and I went to work and I printed off flyers. And I printed off 10 flyers and I walked around downtown because what I was trying to do is build a community and get to know business owners. As a insurance agent, I was just trying to get to know people, not to sell my business or whatever, but really get to know people. So I handed out 10 flyers, and I showed up here at 9:30. I thought, well, we'll make it a kind of a coffee break. Go into the office, get some stuff done, and then come out and have coffee with me for a half hour or whatever. And that morning I had 3 agents, myself and 2 of my agents that worked for my agency were here, and 3 people showed up out of the 10 flyers that I handed out. So it started in one day, so on Tuesday, so Wednesday morning we had CAB. I didn't call it CAB then. I didn't know what to call it. I actually looked at a couple of different names. First name I came up with was Business Community Connection. And I thought, well, BCC, well, then that was Blind Courtesy Copy. Is that going to get confusing out there? So I looked at, well, how about Business and Coffee? So I looked, well, BAC, well, that's blood alcohol content. I'm an insurance agent. Do I want to be associated with that? And so I flipped it around, and that's where it came up with CAB, Coffee and Business. So next week we had 6 people here, new people plus my 3. And then we had 10. Then we had 20. And then we had 30. Then we had 50. We were running 50 to 60 at the height before COVID hit last year. And we were packed in here. In the meantime, Crossroads is here for about 3 months while we were doing this, and they closed up, and so I visited with El Banco, which is another coffee place here, say, hey, can we use this space? They said, sure, and we've been here ever since, and we've not missed a Wednesday. One Wednesday, they were shut down due to COVID. We found another place to meet, but we have not missed a Wednesday in 2.5 years. Going on 3 years, actually, in October, which is unbelievable. People said, if you do it weekly, people won't come. We did it weekly, people came. They said, if you do it during the summertime, people won't come. We did it during the summertime, people came. They said, if you do it at Christmas time, people won't come. We did it at Christmas time, people came. So, we're not a networking group. We're not like some of the other networking groups out there where we have one person per industry coming in, because you got 5,000 realtors and 5,000 insurance agents that are on waiting lists to join a networking group. So we're not that. We are a three-pillar or three-legged stool, if you want to look at it. We're professional development, we're community involvement, and we are networking. So we still have the networking aspect of it, but my favorite part is building relationships. It's coming in here and having people sit at tables, talking to each other, getting to know one another, and then I go around and I can meet all those people and get to know them. I bring in guest speakers. I have people part of CAB that go up there and speak. I provide a stage for them to do that, to share their business, to share a business idea, share their nonprofit and all that stuff. And all that stuff is amazing because growth happens through that, but it is really the relationships. It's the one-on-one connection. It's and I call it my 1 hour work week. You can literally get here, come here for an hour, get to know some people, and set up your rest of your calendar for coffees and stuff outside of CAB till the next week. When I first started doing interviews with CAB members, I did that every week, and I pushed them out, and then people would share, and then we'd get 6,000 likes on some of these interviews and stuff like that, and really just sharing their business. Well, I got good at it, and that's a key there, everybody, is do something long enough, bad enough until you can get good, because if you wait till you're perfect, you'll never do it. So I just started doing interviews, and then last year when COVID hit, I was doing a couple of interviews, and I was reaching out to some of the restaurants. I said, hey, how are you handling COVID? All of a sudden I had people calling me and said, Jayson, could you do an interview with us? We're struggling, we need to get more people in our doors and stuff like that. So I started doing interviews. Then the nonprofits saw what I was doing, so they asked me, they said, Jayson, can you do a panel of us nonprofits and do interviews there? So I did that. The chamber came up and said, Jayson, we want to piggyback off of what you do. Can we be a part of that? So then I brought the chamber into that. Then I get the suicide prevention team here in town. So Jayson, you have a good platform. Can you do an interview with us? We'll have a couple of doctors on and a couple of people that work in this area, because suicide is prevalent, obviously. We're locking people down. People that were already having issues, now we're locked down. We have more chance of suicides. So I started doing interviews there. And it just created a platform for me to get out there. So a lot of things I just started. And if we look at different things that I've done, it's because I didn't wait. Now, I'm a procrastinator, so I'm not saying that I don't procrastinate, but when I'm passionate about something, I don't wait. Just like when I started my cash mob a couple of years ago, it was one of those things that if I waited a year, I probably never would have done it because COVID hit. You know what? So I did it. We planned it in 2 weeks and got it done. And that's how I do my interviews. That's how I've done CAB. Everything has been done because, I tell the world that I'm doing it, then I go do it, and then I figure out how to do it, and then I build the structure behind it. Probably not the best way, especially when I teach a lot on systems and stuff, but at that time, I learned what not to do, and that's what I teach now. So when you talk about networking in the normal sense, where you give a lead and things like that, that brings stress. Okay, that brings stress to the person giving the lead, and the one that's receiving it is, man, I don't have anything for you. So all of a sudden now, all week, you're worrying about what can I do. I don't want people not to come out because of that. I don't want people to say, well, I'm not going to go on Wednesday. I'm going to set an appointment specifically on Wednesday morning. I want people like we had here this morning. I mean, we're now at 11:30, and at 11 o'clock, I still have people here talking and getting to know one another and doing business. Because I want them to be able to create relationships and have that business. And I want to be able to, if I'm on social media and I see somebody, hey, you know what? Does anybody know of a good mortgage lender out there? I know who I can refer to. I don't have to wait till next Wednesday and say, oh, I'm not going to give that out until next Wednesday because I want to have that name to give them, to make that show. I guess if you want to call it, even though you might have called them during the week. They say, hey, by the way, I gave so-and-so a lead this last week and stuff. That's all show. That's all saying, hey, I'm part of this group and I want to do that. When you do that, that is self-serving, like you said. And I want to take the self-serving out of it. Relationships happen here. I don't know how much business happens here at CAB or outside of CAB or because of CAB. Like you come back and say, hey, X amount of dollars was done this last week. Well, X amount of dollars doesn't mean anything to anybody. A client means something to somebody. But if I'm selling insurance and it's $2,000 for an annual premium, I come to come to a networking group and say, hey, I did $2,000 of business last week because of a lead. Well, somebody that sold a house, hey, I did $190,000, and it doesn't equate. It doesn't make any sense. Okay, all it makes you do is feel good or feel bad. I don't want that here, Cab. I want to say, hey, Jayson, thanks for that lead. We did business. That's what it's about. Thank you for joining us for our first episode of Behind the Scenes Great Falls. If you know of a business that should be featured, be sure to make a note in the comment or message me on Facebook of a business that should be featured on our next episode of Behind the Scenes Great Falls.